Welcome to Talk Tennis. Today we have Catherine Harrison.
So glad to be here.
Yay, we're so glad to have you. I was just saying it's been a minute since I've seen you. So a lot has gone on since last time.
So much. I can't remember. Was it 2 years ago when I was here?
I think, maybe.
Yeah. So 2 years ago when I was here, I was actually just coming off of a foot injury. I had a really amazing year in 2022. I was out for most of 2023. I tore my foot at the Australian Open, or actually probably a warm-up tournament, and then I played the Australian Open because I was already in Australia, and I was like, well, why not? So anyway, I was just coming back, and I think the last time I played the Templeton Challenger, that was where I got my first win after injury. So that was a really good little milestone in that comeback. But yeah, just a little bit of background. I came back. I played for almost exactly a calendar year.
Okay.
Yeah, I played singles and doubles both. I was mainly focusing on singles the last time because, I had such an amazing 2022. I had like a ton of top 100 wins. My level was finally, I was playing the tennis that I knew that I had the ability to play and that I've always believed that I had the ability to play.
Yeah.
So, of course, when I come back, I'm like, okay, let's just pick right back up where you left off. And I did. I won 2 singles titles and a doubles title last year. In about 7 months, I got my singles ranking back up from I think I might have dropped off the rankings. Maybe I was like 12 or 1300 to like 300.
Wow.
And in 6 or 7 months, I had a really good comeback. But then I played a tournament in the Dominican Republic in May, and I actually had a really, really bad heat stroke in the semifinals. And that was one of the only times where I've kind of been fearful for my life.
Oh my
I was
gosh.
it was in the semis, and I was up 5-4 in the third, and I just kind of felt myself blacking out a little bit. I had chills, and it was, both of us were so nervous. I don't know why. I guess we wanted to make the final.
Yeah.
And anyway, I had 6 match points. She had 6 break points in that game. It was crazy. And I ended up blacking out on the court. I fell to the ground. And anyway, I was there by myself. And so after the match, the physio just left.
What?
I know, he didn't check on me or anything. And so I was just sitting there, and I had to ask a random men's player. I was like, can you please go get me some ice? I couldn't cool myself. My heart rate was 160 for 45 minutes after the match. And anyway, that I didn't think at the time that affected me. Mm-hmm. That much. It did. I still don't handle heat as well as I used to. And after that, I had so much adrenaline going. In the final, I kind of pulled my Achilles. And so then for the rest of that summer, I was kind of literally and figuratively hobbling along. And I was still doing okay. I made quarters of a challenger, and then I hadn't used any of my protected rankings from my foot injury for doubles.
Okay.
Or I still had a lot left. So I was like, okay, probably good timing. I'll just play doubles leading into US Open.
Yeah.
So I played the Toronto 1000, the Monterey 500, and then US Open. So going into the US Open, we were just doing doubles. My Achilles was feeling a bit better. Doubles is less taxing on your body. So I was like, that's probably good for me right now. And yeah, US Open was, it was really bittersweet. It was amazing, but also really bad because this was US Open last year. And, our first round, it was probably one of the most fun and crazy matches I've ever played in my life.
Okay.
We saved 7 match points. It was bananas. My partner and I had a game plan going in, and, having process-oriented goals always helps me mentally, because if I focus on winning and losing, I just clam up and can't execute anything. And so when we got down 6-2 in the second set tiebreaker, we were just okay, well, let's just stick with the game plan, because if we're going to go out, we might as well go out sticking with what we know.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, it's 3-6, 4-6, 5-6, and then I kind of forget about this. I managed to, we got a 6-all. I double faulted.
No.
It was so bad.
No.
But then I hit a return winner on the next one, and I was my partner's what are you doing? And I was I don't know. But anyway, I know. So anyway, I think we ended up winning 11-9 or something in the tiebreaker, and then 6-3 in the third.
Dang.
And it was just so much adrenaline. So this sounds kind of embarrassing. I was almost cramping at the end of a doubles match. It was 3.5 hours.
That's crazy.
It was really nutty. But yeah, so I was so happy. But then the next morning I woke up and I went to push myself out of bed and my wrist was just, it wouldn't move. And I was like, that's a little weird. It wasn't initially super painful. And so I was like, maybe it's just really sore because I hit so many volleys yesterday.
Yeah.
And I went to the physios and they evaluated it and they're like, well, this is kind of weird, but like you haven't lost any strength. Like you didn't feel a pop or anything. And I was like, no.
Yeah.
And my partner and I, we practiced, I think from like 4 to 5 or 5 to 6 because we wanted to get on a match court that afternoon. And as practice went on, the stiffness went away, but it was so painful.
Oh my gosh.
I know. And so I didn't know what to think because I was like, okay, I didn't feel a pop. I didn't feel snap. You know, maybe with all the adrenaline, I hit a volley weird. You know, the girls were hitting it super hard that we played. And so it's probably just that. And again, went to the physios. They reevaluated it. It was fine. The next day we lost to actually the girls that just won it this year, Gabby and Erin.
Yeah.
And we lost, I think it was like 7-5, 6-4. So in my mind, I'm like, I taped it up. I took like 1 Tylenol or something.
Oh my gosh.
And that was like, and there were a few volleys that I was like, wow, that really hurt.
Yeah.
But you know, like US Open adrenaline will get you through a lot.
Yeah.
And so after that, I was like, okay, I'm gonna take like 3 weeks off. I immediately got an MRI. And the first MRI was inconclusive.
What?
I know. Well, there was a cyst that was blocking the area of my wrist that was hurt. And
you know there's someone else going through this like exact same wrist thing. I'm having PTSD.
Wait, actually?
Yes.
Oh no.
Wait, keep going.
Okay.
Keep going.
Okay. No. So there was like a cyst blocking where the pain was. And the doctor that I've been seeing, you know, he got me through my foot injury. He's really amazing. He is based in Austin. And you know, we did really intensive physical therapy for 3 weeks because he looked at the MRI and he was like, okay, this wasn't a traumatic event. You didn't fall. You didn't feel anything. Right. And he's like, I do see a little bit of a tear. Okay. However, we can rehab that if it's really that small. But he's like, I can't see the whole thing because of the cyst that's blocking it. So like 3 weeks of intensive physical therapy and there is 0 pain resolution.
This is crazy.
Like, yeah, like 0 pain resolution. And for me, that's really weird. Like, especially with upper body stuff, like, you know, it was the same, like if I was hitting a tennis ball, if I was like putting a dish up in a top shelf, like, you know, pulling the blinds down, it was just always there, which is really abnormal for my body. And so my gut was telling me that there's something wrong. So I told him after 3 weeks, because he wanted me to do 6 weeks of physical therapy. I told him after 3, I was like, listen, like something's wrong. And he's like, okay, that's so fair. I am not like a wrist guru. He works with a lot of Team USA track athletes and MMA fighters. So he's better with lower body stuff. Yeah. And he's like, if you have somebody or know somebody, or I can set you up with a wrist specialist. And at that time, I texted Dr. J. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He is based out of Atlanta, and he's like the tennis ortho.
Okay.
He does a ton of studies for the WTA and ATP. He worked with the ATP for a while, and I've known him for years now, from when I used to live in Atlanta. And so I texted Dr. J, and I was like, hey, can I come see you and get a second opinion? Yeah. And he is unbelievable. I flew out like a day later to Atlanta. He set me up with the head of arm surgery at Emory Healthcare System. So I saw him, I saw the surgeon, and I did this fancy like 3T MRI. And I think it creates like, it doesn't just give you a 2D image, it gives you like kind of a model. Okay. And yeah, that's when things kind of took a turn for the worse. And the surgeon was like, yeah, this is not ideal. And yeah, so at that point, I met with Dr. J, I met with the surgeon, and Dr. J is very surgery averse. He's like, the body can heal itself.
Oh,
like,
I love that.
Yeah, like he's very much rehab forward. Yeah. And when he started saying, you know, I'm not going to tell you to do surgery, but if you decide that that's the path you want to go, I will 100% affirm your decision. I was like, oh no. And like and I actually, you know, I was pretty aggressive with the surgeon. I was like, you're a surgeon. Surgeons like to cut things. I was like,
literally had this conversation last night with someone.
That's so crazy. That's it. Yeah. And I was like, surgeons like to cut things. If this were you and you couldn't perform surgery right now, what would you do? Yeah. Like, would you try and rehab it first any more than I already have, or would you have surgery? And he's like, I, with like 90% like positivity or whatever, can tell you that this is not going to be fixed without surgery. He's like, you can try PRP. He's like, maybe your body can heal it. Anyway, fast forward, I do choose to do the surgery because at this point it's like mid-October or like beginning of October, mid-October. And I'm like, okay, like I can get the worst of it out of the way during off season. I can start playing again.
Rehab,
I can start playing again in like March, like February, March.
Yeah.
Like we can get back on it. So I did elect to do the surgery, and long story short, it ended up being the best call because once he got in there, he's like, this was messed up. He's like, I don't know how you played. Like he was going in, he thought he was going to have to do 1 to 2 types of procedures. He ended up doing 4.
What?
Yeah.
And was that cyst like protecting something? Was it your body's way of...
Yeah, he did say that whenever there's a tear, it is your body's way of like kind of trying to cushion the blow. And so he's like, whenever there is a tear, there's usually a cyst. And so he's like, that's why I gave you like that 10%, because he's like, technically it could just be a random cyst, but he's like in an athlete with pain presenting in this area, he's like, I just didn't think so. And he was completely correct, but I am so grateful. My surgery was 100% successful.
Nice.
The only thing right now is that like my mobility is a little bit limited.
Okay.
But he seems to think over time that will get back to normal as well. He put 2 pins in my wrist, and he was basically like, I screwed those suckers in, because he's like,
he's seen you hit.
Well, yeah, exactly. And he was very practical. You know, he's like, you know, you are 30 years old. Like another surgery would probably be career ending for you. And he's like, you're gonna be fine till you're 50.
Oh,
and I was
awesome.
like, yeah, he's like, this is not going anywhere. But he's like, although it might take a little bit longer to get back to full mobility, which I'm fine with. You know, I'd rather a healthy wrist. So, that's where we are at today.
Almost a year out.
Yeah, I know.
That's crazy.
November 1st was when I had my surgery. Gosh. So we're almost a year out. And yeah, it does continue to improve every week. I can tell a little bit of difference. Like it's just creeping back to normal. But yeah, I started playing tournaments about 3 months ago now, 2.5 months ago. So yeah, we're getting back.
Okay.
But yeah, long road.
Oh my gosh. Well, okay, I have all the things. Apparently Ingrid Neal is like going through the exact same thing.
Okay.
Have you talked to her?
Okay, so it was actually so funny. After US Open last year, when I did all this thing, I had the surgery, Ingrid and I actually had a massage next to each other.
Okay.
The same day after my first round match. And we were talking, and she's like, oh, I think like I have like a small tear in my wrist, whatever. And I was like, ooh, that sounds bad. And I kind of forgot about it. But then I can't remember what reminded me of Ingrid, but I was in my cast. Like I was at home doing puzzles and listening to audiobooks and trying to pass time with my arm in a cast. And I was like, you know, I haven't seen Ingrid play much.
Yeah.
And so I, you know, Googled her, and it looked like she played one more tournament after US Open, but then she also hadn't played like me. So I texted her and I was like, hey girl, like just thinking about you, how's your wrist?
Yeah.
And she's like, actually, you know, it's really bad. I couldn't figure anything out. And long story short, I was like, she got surgery with my surgeon.
Okay, so
same one.
Sitting here, I met her at Wimbledon, and she's literally telling me the same story with the
same exact
cyst and everything. And I texted her literally on Sunday saying like, oh, I think Kat's coming to Templeton. Are you coming? That's so funny.
Yeah. Exact same. So I was like, listen, I was kind of going through the same thing. Like I text Dr. J, and she knew Dr. J also. Most tennis players that have been around for a little bit know him at some point or have met him. So yeah, she flew to Atlanta and did the exact same thing. She stayed in the same hotel I did with my search. So yeah, we both have, shout out Dr. Wagner. So now I'm like, okay, we've got to play a tournament together and then like win the tournament. And then we have to dedicate the win to Dr. Wagner, because like Buddy's responsible for both of our careers at this point.
No, totally.
But yeah, so she did get surgery at the same place. So
that's crazy.
Yeah. So I think she's starting back in the new year.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was going to ask too, because I just happened to have lunch with her at Wimbledon.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. And I had not met her before. I think we had spoken before, but.
Yeah. Oh, Ingrid's amazing. I love Ingrid.
Awesome.
She's so fun.
But she had flown to Wimbledon just to kind of like test out her wrist and see the physios at the WTA. And then I think she did the same at the US Open. She was able to train. So what does that look like when you're like, how do you know when you're like able to start coming back from your injury? And like, did you ever like go to a tournament knowing you're not going to play, but still to be around your peers and like test it out?
So I actually did not. I think my surgery was it was very intensive, but it was also very straightforward.
Okay.
Ingrid's was a little bit more complex. I'm not, again, this is my first upper body injury ever. I don't know like the exact anatomy of the wrist other than like mine. I know.
And what was the actual?
The TFCC. It's like trifib something cartilage complex.
Torn.
Yeah, torn in multiple spots.
Nice.
And it was not cute in there. I did not go to any tournaments.
Okay.
I think Ingrid's is more kind of like how you feel based, whereas mine was like, even if you're feeling pain, it will continually get better.
Yeah.
So it's okay to push through a bit of pain.
Okay.
And I could very easily plan. I had a day-by-day schedule that Dr. Jayanthi gave me from the time I started hitting tennis balls again. So I flew to Atlanta, obviously for my surgery, and then the next time I flew to Atlanta was my clearance to play appointment.
Nice.
And Dr. Jayanthi, he is like a 5-0 player himself. Like he plays a bunch of tennis. Yeah, like probably 5-6 times a week. So I actually went on the court with him, and he wanted, that's what he does with all of his tennis athletes.
That's awesome.
And so he was looking at, like the biomechanics of my strokes, and from the first hit, it was pretty apparent that I was going to be okay. He's like, I didn't expect you to be able to do half the stuff you're doing right now.
Wow.
I was really lucky in that sense that from the first hit, it was pretty fine going forward. Like my body progressed exactly according to his schedule. And the first tournament I played back, I probably started back a little too early, but not like in a bad way. It was just like, you practice and it's fine in practice, but then you get to tournaments and everything's just so chaotic because it's like nothing is controllable. There's wind, there's like you play at 9:00 at night, there's just random variables that you can't really recreate in practice. And so I couldn't really hit really rip into my forehand. The first 2 or 3 weeks I was on the road, I was kind of bump lobbing and kind of bunting my forehand. But I think some of it was mental too.
Right. No, totally.
Because it's you just get so used to having pain in your wrist. And anyway, but no, so I'm pretty fine now. Sometimes I'll catch a shot late and I'm like, oh, that doesn't feel good. But I would do that anyway. It wouldn't feel great.
Yeah.
I know it wouldn't feel great anyway. So so I'm really grateful that my recovery is, it was good. I'm back on court.
Back on track.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we were talking a little bit off air about maybe a mental transition for you between going after that singles and now shifting focus to more of a doubles specialist. Talk a little bit about it.
Yeah. So I won't say that it wasn't an easy decision, but it was a clear decision. I again did really well in last year in 2024.
Yeah.
If I wasn't, I won 2 titles, but if I wasn't winning, I was making quarter semis pretty frequently.
Yeah.
So just really getting a lot of wins, and I don't do very well on green clay, which is the only clay in America. So I knew that, so I was like, I'm just going to grind. I'm going to put my nose to the grindstone for 12 months, hunt out hard courts.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And it's just with all of the travel and everything, it's sure I have the physical ability, I believe, to, get top 100, top 200, but it's just, I don't know if my body can sustain that, because even in 2022 when I had such a good run at Wimbledon and US Open. I won my first 4 matches at Wimbledon. I qualified, won my first round, and then at US Open, I qualified again and then lost to Sabalenka first round, and it was fun. I wish I would have gotten a better draw, but it was fun. So, it was good, but I just remember how hard I had to push my body,
right,
and the level of exhaustion that I had to deal with day in and day out, and how many tournaments I had to play, because I am an aggressive player,
very physical.
Yeah, very, very physical.
Yeah.
And part of the whenever I play my best, it's a little bit counterintuitive. I do have amazing defense as well, and I feel like people see the hard 2-handed forehand winners that I'll hit, but actually a lot of that is turning defense into offense to give myself the ability to do that. And so I am tired after matches. And yeah, after my foot injury, I was like, okay, that's kind of a one-off. You know, I feel really great. You know, I am 31, and in normal life terms, that is super young, but in tennis terms, it's not that young.
Right.
But I do feel like really good, you know, still, or I did, you know, at the time. And yeah, once I came back, it really kind of hit me that I was like, oh, wow, like this was the first time that I really felt different in my body on the court coming off that second injury. But I was like, okay, no, maybe it's just your body getting used to pro tennis again.
Yeah.
Like, but it kind of wasn't.
Intuition. I'm on this intuition train.
No, seriously, it kind of was. There were multiple matches. You know, I won this match in Thailand. It was like 97 degrees, like 80% humidity to start the year, and I won like 6-4 in the third, like played great, but I got off the court and I was doing my cool down, and I just remember kind of staring off into space and being like, I don't know how much longer I can do this. Like, because I felt fine. I was coming off of preseason. I was in really good shape, but I was like, damn, you know,
that's
like,
a lot. It's
I was
hard.
like, I'm going to have to do this week in and week out every time. And I just, again, my level's there, you know, but I just physically, you know, I'm not that big of a person. You know, I'm like 5'5".
Are you still vegan?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, for the most part. I call myself a bad vegan because occasionally, like, I want cookies. And if there's not a
Granted.
vegan, yeah, if
it's
there's
okay.
not,
life is short.
yeah, I was like, if there's not a vegan cookie available,
I'm
then
still
like,
gonna eat the
yeah, I'm
cookie.
gonna eat the cookie.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm a bad vegan, but whatever. Anyway, so once I got through that injury and like realized that my body was kind of not where it was, I was like, okay, but maybe, you know, if you get to top 100 and like, then realistically, like your matches mean more in the top 100. So if you just win a match at, you know, a 500, it's like the equivalent of winning a challenger.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, maybe if you just push yourself and then get yourself to 500 or into the top 100 rather, and, you know, you have access to the WTA physios.
Yeah.
And like, maybe then it'll be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, all of a sudden this wrist thing pops up at US Open, and that was kind of like, as soon as that happened and I knew I had to have surgery, it kind of wasn't a choice in my brain.
Yeah.
Because I do have a deep respect for my body and what it does on the tennis court, and I just don't want to push it to the point of being so broken.
Well, and you were killing yourself to get there.
No, I know.
And by the time you're there.
No, I know. And
like,
I was like, I cannot
there.
do this again. It's like kind of fool me once, fool me twice thing. Like, you know, I push myself so hard, injure myself, push myself so hard, injure myself. And I'm like, okay, you got to do something different. So yeah, I did decide to just do doubles, and it, you know, I thought I would be a lot more sad than I am. I think part of it is that I did achieve my one goal that I set for myself when I started playing pro tennis, which was to play at the All England Club.
That's awesome.
I mean, maybe this is like a life lesson, like set bigger goals. I just, I don't know. I mean, I just like
You've done an amazing thing.
I was just like a normal person, like growing up in Germantown, Tennessee. Like, I mean, I was kind of a try hard. You know, I've never been like a Coco Gauff or like one of the people that, you know, are like, oh, wow, she's for sure going to make it. You know, like, so I thought that making the main draw at Wimbledon was like a huge, you know, I thought that was like a reach for the stars type goal.
Yeah. Well, now it's like winning that Grand Slam in doubles.
No, exactly.
Right?
No, I know.
Good.
No, it kind of is though.
Yeah.
Because that's really, it's funny. It's good that you say that. Like, that's kind of what really put it in black and white terms for me to make the decision to go for doubles, because I was like, okay, realistically, like, you know, when I played Sabalenka, like I played Caroline Garcia, Tomljanovic, like I really felt as though I was playing well when I played those people, and they just smacked me. You know, I felt myself hit my ceiling ability-wise, and I'm like, okay, so should I kill myself in my body trying to get myself to like 72 in the world, which for the record is like an amazing accomplishment.
Absolutely.
Should I just kill myself trying to get to like 70, 80 in the world? Or do I do what's probably best for my body and focus on doubles? And in my career, you know, I've had multiple top 10 wins. I've won a WTA 250. I've won every level of ITF doubles title. You know, I've had a lot. Like last week, I just got my first top 100 win back. Yay, thanks. My first top 100 win back from my injury. You know, and I'm like, okay, maybe if I actually focused on doubles, which is something I've never done before. I've always just, you know, had good returns and good serves, and like I'm willing to take risks at the net. And I've kind of winged it my whole career. So I'm like, wow, you know, what if I actually focus on this and work on the skills it takes to be a good doubles player? maybe I could win a Grand Slam.
That's amazing.
You know, like I've, you know, beaten girls that have won Grand Slams. Given it wasn't, you know, when they were number one in the world, but like I've, you know, beaten them when they're like, you know, 20 in the world, 30 in the world,
Yeah.
like, and they've done it.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, maybe I can too. And yeah, I like also that the longevity of your career with doubles, you can play a lot longer. Like my doubles partner at the US Open last year was 38 with 2 kids,
Nice.
Which I think is amazing. So,
Who did you play with last year?
Ala Rizalska.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah,
okay. I'm
yeah,
good
yeah,
friends
yeah.
with Dan.
Oh, yeah. No,
I was like,
they're-
wait, that sounds like Ala.
Yeah, they're amazing.
Yeah,
I had
yeah,
so
yeah.
much fun with them. But yeah, so
Oh my gosh, that's
that's
fun.
kind of, yeah. So there's part of me that like, you know, I'll be at these tournaments and I'm watching singles happen and I'm like, I could still do that. But then it's like there's also other days that I wake up and I'm like, I am so glad that I can sleep in right now.
No.
And I'm like, you know, and
Yeah.
I don't have a singles match. Like yeah.
From an outsider looking in, and especially now because tennis is going through this cool moment where like we're seeing so much more of like the actual tennis and behind the scenes. But I just always watch the doubles specialists and I'm like, they've got such a cool life because they're
Yes.
traveling, they have days off, they get to go shopping, they're going out. Like, you know, like Erin, like after she
Yeah.
won US Open, I'm like, whoa, she's like, and they don't look stressed.
Yeah.
You have a teammate, you have your team. A lot of you guys, everyone that's in the doubles right now, former college players.
Yeah,
so it's
exactly.
like you have this built-in group of friends. So it looks fun.
No, it does. It seems like really fun, you know, and it mostly is girls that were top in college. And yeah, I was number one in college in doubles.
So there you go.
So I'm like, maybe
You got that.
I know. I'm like, maybe it's my turn next, you know? So, I mean, there's still going to be a lot of work to do. You know, I lost my ranking, I think like 3 or 4 weeks ago, but I don't know. I did pretty well the last 3 weeks. And so I think I
You're on
went
your
from like
comeback.
700 or 800. And now I'm like back up to 300 something. And so
That's awesome.
And I have no ranking points to defend for
Perfect.
10 months.
Wow.
So we're good.
We're on the up and up.
Yeah, we're on the upswing, but yeah, I'm excited about it.
Amazing. We got a couple questions
Okay.
from some of our YouTube fans.
Oh.
And since you've kind of like transitioned now being more doubles focused, this could be really fun to answer. But it says, what does your schedule look like on a typical week?
Like a training week? Okay.
Well, let's do, probably a training week. And they want to know kind of how many hours you're spent on the court, off the court, if you're taking a rest day, what your rest day looks like.
Yeah, so on the court, I am now, you know, again, right now I'm still technically in like, not rehab, but like I'm trying to be mindful of the hours I spend on the court. I'll usually cap it around 2.
Okay.
If I'm doing a lot of feeds and I have, you know, access to a coach and we're doing specifics, probably like 90 minutes.
Okay.
And a lot of that is spent on volleys, transition work, serves and returns are big. I actually just did a training, or not just did, it was a couple months ago at this point, but I did a training week in Fort Worth with Will Bochek, who runs the Tennis Tribe podcast, and because it's so weird. His dad was my dentist when I was a kid.
What?
Yeah. So I'm
The
actually
world
like
is so small.
I know I've like known of him for forever, and so anyway,
We love Will.
yeah. So we reconnected, recently, and I went there because I was like, I don't know how to structure my practices as a doubles specialist.
Wow.
You know, because I live in Austin, but whenever I have like a training block, I'll go to Dallas because my childhood coach lives there and I've got a lot of connections in the DFW area. So whenever I've been home in Austin, you know, I kind of just wing it. Like my partner, he plays tennis and so he can help me with feeds sometimes, but he coaches, you know, so he's on court all day anyway, so I feel bad asking him sometimes. But anyway, I went to Fort Worth to ask him how to structure because I just randomly play points when I'm home,
Right.
you know, and just set up match play, and I'm like, that's not really conducive to doubles.
Yeah.
So yeah, I haven't spent a lot of time in Austin yet because
Okay.
I got healthy and then started playing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what he told me to do, you know, spend like maybe hit 1 or 2 up the middle, spend a lot of time on cross courts. He said spend a lot of time emphasizing depth, which obviously, you know, when you think about it, it's logical because I mean it's hard to get the ball past the net player if you're hitting the ball a foot from the baseline.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was big on doing, you know, like working on that first volley, like, you know, if you're poaching or the ball comes right out you off the return. Yeah, basically just entirely like everything doubles. He's like, you don't need to be thinking anything singles related.
Yeah.
So yeah, lots of serves returns. And then on the road, it's so funny you asked this question. I literally just said this to my doubles partner this week. I'm like, I'm still figuring out what doubles looks like on the road. Because my first road trip back, I was playing with a girl who was only playing doubles.
Okay.
So that was easy. That was super easy.
Yeah.
We just did doubles practices every day and, played cross-court points and all of that stuff and tried to find 2 other girls to practice doubles with. And it was easy. But, when I'm playing with somebody who's playing singles, it's a little tougher and I'm still figuring that out. My partner today that I'm practicing with, she practices morning singles and she's like, oh, let's do doubles this afternoon. So that works out great for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wish I had a better answer right now, but I'm still I'm still kind of working on how my practices look on the road. I'm hopeful that next year, once my ranking is a little bit better and I'm going to tournaments with a little bit higher prize money, I can start traveling with my travel coach again.
Nice.
And that would make things a lot easier.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. Well, and then that kind of leads into a question that I know a lot of people have asked, and like you might have a different perspective. How do you choose a doubles partner?
Yeah. So, right now, I'm kind of playing with a lot of different types of players. Cool. I'm learning that I really like playing with somebody with a big serve. I'm really kind of trying to transition myself from like that solid baseline player whose job it is to set up people at the net to like being the all-court player. Like, I love my volleys.
Yeah.
I have really good volleys, but in the past, I've just kind of fallen into, I'll play with somebody who's a bit more crafty and who doesn't hit the ball maybe as hard or have as big of a serve, but like they're insane at net and they can take advantage of my returns and my serves and whatever.
Yeah.
But I really, I played with Ashley Leahy, who played at Pepperdine. I played with her the last four-ish tournaments, and we crushed it.
Yeah.
And I felt like it's because we both kind of did everything well. She's got a cannon of a serve.
Nice.
And, I was having so much fun at the net. Like, I could take advantage of everything. I was like, wow, I actually feel like a doubles player. Like, I was in the right positions. I was poaching at the right times. But then also, she's like 6 feet tall. She is very imposing at net. And so, she was also able to take advantage of, even though my serve is probably a little bit slower than hers, she was still able to take advantage of that and like my hard ground strokes, and we really worked well together as a pair.
Nice.
We won 2 out of the 4 tournaments.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it was really good. And then this week, Allie, who I'm playing with, she's really solid. She's got a cannon of a forehand. She's got good volleys, good instincts. Probably, not as big of a serve as Ashley because she's not 6 feet tall.
Yeah.
But
not everyone.
Not many people have as good of a serve as Ashley. But still that's fine. Like, it's just very different, because if your serve comes through lower, then it could potentially be like an easier volley, because the ball comes back more linear, and instead of like Ashley's serve where like I kind of had to raise up to, because her serve's coming through at a higher trajectory, I had to like raise up to get a lot of poaches.
Right.
So it could be different. It could be better. It could be worse. I don't know. I'm trying out a lot of different play styles.
Nice.
Yeah, this fall.
That's cool.
Yeah, because I've never really focused on it.
Yeah.
So I'm still in the learning and like information gathering stage, but the last few weeks have been good. Yeah.
This other question is going to fall into kind of this new chapter for you too. Mm-hmm. They were curious what you do to like course correct when you're in a match and you're losing.
Yeah.
And like, what do you focus on? And maybe it's different than in your singles than your doubles, but
yeah. So it kind of depends what the problem is. One thing that Will, the doubles coach, was helping me with, like, my first instinct is to just hit the crap out of the ball.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, if I connect with the ball, it doesn't matter who I'm playing.
Right.
That's always been my first mode of thought. But he actually said, he's like, listen, the chip lob is a really good play. And, with my surgery, one of the things I was struggling with was like meeting my returns in front of me because like that really isolates my wrist. And like part of it was probably mental, but like I was really struggling like going after my returns like I did pre-surgery.
Okay.
And he's like, don't keep banging your head up against a wall. Like chip lob, you've got great feel. And that has been such a game changer. It's just been so stupid in my head. I'm like, oh, people who chip lob just have bad returns. Like, that's such a dumb way to think. And I didn't even realize that I was thinking that. It was just subconscious. Because for me, with a two-handed forehand, every time I let go and I'm like out wide, I'm like, oh, that's a defensive shot. Right. So like the same kind of thinking translated into the returns, but that's not it. And I've found a lot of success with that. So I guess that's one example.
That's awesome.
I can't, like, you know, I am not opposed to just completely like changing any type of game plan. Like, you know, if we're getting pummeled at net, do two back on the serve. Yeah, I mean, even if somebody's serving, do two back on the serve. I mean, Arani and Paolini do it. Like they're like number one in the world recently. Yeah. I mean,
why not? It doesn't have to look
and that's
great.
That's one of the fun parts about doubles. There's so many different ways to course correct. Like you can do, you know, Aussie, you can do I. Like I think I is a great one if your opponents are like cracking returns and they're just seeing that cross court target. Mm-hmm. Just giving them a different visual sometimes it's really game changing. Like speaking of Ingrid, you know, I vividly remember this. We played in 2022 U.S. Open. We played Samsonova when she was having her insane season. Mm-hmm. And like draw came out and I was like, oh no. I was like, we're gonna get smacked. And I was like,
oh no.
I was like petrified because at the time she'd had like the hardest serve of the season. Mm-hmm. Like she'd hit the hardest forehand of the season. And I was like, oh no. And Ingrid and I hadn't played a single practice point together. We'd never played together.
Yeah.
And but we get out there and she's cracking her turns cross and we change it and we start doing I formation. Homegirl could not make a return. It's just like you took her target away. Exactly. And it was like night and day. And we ended up winning like 6-4, 6-4. It was just like one break every set because they could not get a point on our serves.
I love that.
Yeah. That's so cool. Just little tweaks like that and being willing to just do something different, like instead of trying to like correct your own strokes, like because I feel like that's probably a practice thing later on. Right. Like when you get on the match court, it's like, okay, use what you have that day and figure it out and then fix it later.
Yeah.
But yeah, big fan of just trying whatever on the doubles court.
Yeah, I love that. And we make it too complicated sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
Last question, then we'll wrap this up because we're already there. Gear check. People love to hear your gear. Okay. So tell us what you're working with.
So shoe-wise, oh my God, what are they? Because I just switched.
Yeah, the Asics.
The Asics.
Gel Resolution.
They're the Gel Resolution.
X.
Okay, Gel Resolution X.
Yeah.
Okay. Actually love these. I, again, had that foot injury, and pre-injury, I was in the solution speed.
Yeah,
I was in the solution speed.
Which is way lighter.
I know, which are way lighter. And
way
so
more
actually,
flexible.
I kind of tricked myself after surgery because I was like, okay, I haven't played tennis in 4 months. I'm just going to order the more supportive shoes. And
make it work.
I'm not going to know the difference because I just got used to them because I hadn't played tennis in a while. So yeah.
They're working.
They are working.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
They're
a lot more supportive. My PTs are very happy that I've switched to a more supportive shoe.
They're so stable.
Although honestly, all Asics are really good. I really have loved them. That's all I've played with when I've been a pro. Let's see, rackets. I did recently switch. I'm a big fan of Prince. Love that. But when I was injured, my string sponsor is Solinco.
Yes.
They sent me just rackets to try, and they had it has a foam core in the new Blackout, and I didn't actually intend to switch rackets. I was just like, oh, this is going to absorb a little bit more shock as I come back. Of course I'll switch back to the Prince.
Yeah.
Which still, I don't know, we'll see. But, I do like it though. It's very, very similar spec-wise to my racket.
But it's, so just to give Prince the out here, that racket that you've been using it's been in the market for a long time.
No, I love that racket. This was a huge, but part of me was like, let's just change, doubles player now. Let's just do a change, whatever.
So going to something with foam totally makes sense. Yeah. You don't have to that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I was talking to someone saying oh, she switched to something that's foam filled. There's not a lot, but some of the vendors now or brands are putting more foam into the rackets.
I think that's
for
smart.
these reasons.
Yeah, I think that's smart. So I play with the Blackout.
Just
Solinco
the
Blackout.
Standard 100.
Just off the rack. And then I play with the Tour Bite Soft strings.
Okay.
I believe it's the 17 gauge.
Nice.
Yeah, I've played with some rendition of Solinco Tour Bite. I've tried the rough. I've tried the regular. I've landed on the soft, obviously, for body preservation issues. And yeah, really like it. I played with that my entire pro career.
Amazing.
Yeah, clothing wise, I've started wearing all the tops you've sent me.
We love that.
Yeah,
You're the best.
They're actually great, especially the long
Sophie
sleeves.
Bella, right?
Yeah, Sophie
Yes.
Bella. I love especially the long sleeve tops. Those are great. I do mix it up with like some Lulu in there, but yeah, that's about
awesome.
it. And I guess Wilson Pro overgrips. Those are the OG overgrips.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you know, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Those are I've used those since I was a child. I don't think I've played a single tournament match without those grips.
It's so funny when there's like athletes that are sponsored by big vendors, big brands that like are not Wilson and they still like
Oh
need,
yeah, the
need
Wilson yeah, the
overgrip.
Wilson Pro overgrip can't be beat.
Yeah. Okay, well then that totally wraps up this episode, even though we could go on forever.
For sure.
Any last minute like advice to anyone struggling most likely with an injury? Let's give injured people that are injured, because I'm like 2 weeks off the tennis court and I probably have 2 more weeks until I can get on the tennis court.
Sure.
So like give us some words of advice.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I can say is that bodies are amazing, and usually, you know, when it's a tennis injury, like it's because our bodies, we've pushed ourselves a little bit too much or something's happened. Like, but if you really zoom out, it's like even being able to play tennis every day, like there's so many people that, you know, can't do that. Like there's tens of millions of people in everywhere that like would love to do what we do every day.
Yeah.
So I would just say, you know, give your body the time it needs, you know, sleep enough, eat enough, like don't push through pain. Like bodies are amazing. They will heal. You will get better.
Yeah.
So
That's great advice. Cool. Well, happy hitting.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yay.